Couple shop updates ago, I dropped a couple of hints that I needed some more space in the toolbox. Nobody actually picked up on it, or if you did pick up on it, you didn't comment about it, but let me show you what my solution for finding more space it was. Yeah. A lot more space. A lot more space because I got a new toolbox. What I'll do is I'll just wheel the old one over here and put it in front of it so you can compare it. What we're going to do is sort of that clipping here next about the toolboxes, but I just wanted to shoot this brief little thing. After the toolboxes, I'm going to tell you a little story about something that happened to me, and then there'll be more in the video about some welding and stuff that I had to do, a little bit of a tool repair that I had to do for somebody. You might notice that my voice is a little bit different, but what I'll do is I'll bring you back after the toolbox segment and explain this whole thing to you. Okay, there you can see the height difference. You can see the width difference. And then you can see the length difference. Now, I'm not going to, what I'm going to do is I'll do a toolbox tour. I'm not going to do it until I get everything reorganized in there the way that I really want it. I just kind of transferred all the tools out of one box over to the other box, and this box is sitting here waiting to go back to Mac. So, I'm not going to do a update until, like I said, until I get everything organized inside of that toolbox. But there it is, a new toolbox. Okay, I kind of figured that I'd switch it up and sit in the chair in front of the toolbox just to give you a different perspective of everything. Last Thursday, I was working at the welding table, not really doing anything. I mean, welding, but not doing anything that would have caused what I thought happened. All of a sudden, I got this twinge in my stomach, like a muscle pull, and I'm thinking, man, this is strange. I really haven't done anything to pull a muscle. Why would I be getting this? And it was kind of up higher in my stomach, kind of down just below my diaphragm. So I just let it go, kind of thinking that, okay, I must have done something that I don't remember. It'll get better. Come Friday, it hadn't gotten any better. It had gotten a little worse, as a matter of fact, but I kind of blew it off and said, you know, things usually do get worse before they get better. Saturday, it got even worse. And I just kind of sucked it up and went with it. So on Saturday, it was kind of painful, and it had lowered. It had lowered down to the lower right-hand section of my stomach. And I really didn't, what I kind of started suspecting was that maybe I had some kind of a bowel obstruction, and that obstruction had moved down. Because I really hadn't gone to the bathroom in a couple of days, which is kind of unusual for me. And I know that you probably don't want to fucking hear that, but anyways, it's kind of unusual for me. It came Sunday, and the pain was very intense. And I called my grandson up, and I had made the decision that probably I should go into the emergency room and just get it checked out and see what the hell it was. I called my grandson up, and he says, ironically, I've had this migraine for 4 days. He says, why don't you come over and pick me up, and we'll both go in together, see if they can fix my migraine too. Now, let me kind of go into a little sidebar here. To know me is to know that I don't believe in doctors. I don't go to doctors. I don't believe in doctors. It's not that I don't believe in what doctors do. I believe in what doctors don't do anymore. You know, when I was younger, doctors were people that went into the profession of becoming a doctor because they wanted to help people. And they helped people by diagnosing what was wrong with them and telling them to fix it. Like if you went to a doctor's office, and I'm not going to say that this happened when I was younger because I never heard of high cholesterol before I was younger, while I was younger. But let's use that as an example. If you went to a doctor's office a long time ago and you had high cholesterol, the doctor would tell you, well, okay, get off your fucking ass and start exercising and change your food habits. And come back and see me while you're doing this, and we'll make sure that your cholesterol level is going down. Today, if you went into a doctor's office and had high cholesterol, they're going to start prescribing you medication. And they're going to start prescribing you medication. In a lot of cases, they prescribe you not the right medication in the first, and because they get kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies for prescribing medicine. If you ever go to a doctor's office and have them tell you something's wrong and have them say to you, let me prescribe you this medicine and then come back and see me in a week and we'll make sure that it's working for you, and you go back and see them in a week and tell them, no, it's not really working, or they tell you, no, that's not the medicine that's really working, let me prescribe you something else. That's why they're doing it. Because the more medication that they prescribe, the more kickbacks that they get from pharmaceutical companies. And that's become the doctor's ethics now. They don't tell you what's wrong. They don't diagnose anything anymore. But let me get off of that. I go into the hospital, and they take me into the emergency room of the hospital, and they say, okay, what's the issue? And I told them, I says, well, I've had this pain in my stomach. It started up high, moved down low, and I think maybe it could be a bowel obstruction, but I'm not really sure. And the doctor, after he got pissed off at me because I told him that I didn't believe in doctors, because he asked me who my physician was, and I told him I didn't have one, and he got pissed off at me because I didn't have a physician. He felt around my stomach, and he says, I don't think it's a bowel obstruction. I think actually it's your appendix. But he says, let me give you a CAT scan. They took me into the CAT scan, brought me out, back to the emergency room. I was probably in there for 15 minutes in the emergency room, and walks the surgeon. He says, it's your appendix and it's ruptured. We want to get you into surgery as soon as possible. I'm here. I'm going to stay here. Let me call in a team. So within an hour, they took me into surgery. The guy says, I'm going to do it laparoscopically. I said, well, what is that? He says, we're going to make small little incisions into your stomach, and we're going to go in with some probes and a camera, and we'll take them out through those small incisions. And I says, well, how long is it going to take? And he says, Well, I've done it as fast as 15 minutes, but it usually takes about an hour. So my grandson and everybody else is there listening to this. An hour. They take me into surgery and put me under. So again, now I haven't been to a doctor in a long time. I've never, the only surgery I've ever had in my life is when I was about 8 years old and had my tonsils removed. And it was done using ether. They put a mask over my nose and mouth and dripped ether onto it to put me out to do the tonsillectomy. They took me into surgery at 7:30. They said, told my family to go to this waiting room for surgery patients. They had told them about an hour. 7:30, finally the board gets posted that I go into a recovery room at 10:30. It was a little after 10:30 actually. So 3 hours. What happened was they went in laparoscopically, and the guy got in there with the camera and the probes, and he said that he's never seen an appendix that bad in his life. Not only was the appendix bad, part of it had wrapped around my bowel or my large intestine, and he couldn't get it removed. So they had to abort the laparoscopic surgery and reset the operating room up for conventional surgery, and then open my stomach up and go in there conventionally and remove the appendix and try and get it unwound from my large intestine, which they couldn't do. They actually had to remove a little section of my large intestine along with it. So that explains the long surgery process. But there's a couple of things, because I had never been to a doctor and never had surgery before, except when I was a kid. There's a couple of things. My voice sounds like this because they put a trachea tube down my throat and hooked me to a ventilator while I was in surgery. Never had that happen before. They removed that trachea tube while I was still under anesthesia, and it doesn't hurt. My throat doesn't hurt, but my voice has changed, and they said that should go away within a week. Voice has changed because the tube went down past my larynx, and it probably aggravated my larynx, and that's why my voice is like this. The other thing that I had never had before was a catheter. And so I got out of surgery and went up into a floor of the hospital for recovery. And the first day, very attractive nurse, she says, "I've got to remove your catheter." And I says, "Okay." Now, understand that I never talked to anybody about having a catheter before. I never had one before. And she says, "I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to hurt. And it might hurt very bad depending on how you are." But anyways, what she did was talking to me, and then she distracted me by looking to the side like she was looking at something. And as I looked over to the side, she ripped this thing out. And I have never had such excruciating pain in my life. I thought she was ripping my bowels out through my dick, basically, or my balls even. I mean, she was so apologetic for it, but she says, I had to do it. It has to come out, and we have to do it. And she says the pain's going to go away in very quickly, probably within the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. You're probably not going to have any pain until the first time that you urinate. And then when you urinate, she says your hate for me is going to start all over again. But that will go away after you've urinated a couple of times. And it did. It was fine, you know. I mean, I got through it. I'd never been through it before, so it was a new experience for me. But anyways, I'm filming this thing on a Friday morning. I got out of the hospital, and I kind of talked my way out of the hospital early. I had drove myself to the hospital, so I had talked myself out of getting. I never took pain medication after the surgery, and they were impressed by that, kind of giving them this false pretense of me not being in any pain. I wasn't in any pain, but being able to let me go maybe a little earlier than they might have let somebody else go in that circumstances. But they let me go yesterday afternoon, which was Thursday afternoon. Now, I didn't tell them that I had drove myself there so that they were going to let me go by having to drive home. But that was kind of between me and you right now, and I will probably never share that with the doctor. Giving somebody else the opportunity of not having that thought placed in their mind and them asking them questions about how they were going to get home, if somebody was going to pick them up or not. But anyways, so that's kind of the story. So I just want to share that with you because I'm under strict restrictions about being able to do things. When she let me go, she told me that I had to go home. And she said, you don't work, right? And I says, no, I'm retired, but I have a shop. And she kind of looked at me and she says, you're going to go home and you're going to stay home, right? You're not going to your shop. And I says, no, I won't go to the shop. And she says, you can't pick up anything over 5 pounds. So 5 pounds is ridiculous. I mean, I understand, and there was one other time, some dental procedure that I had done back in the 80s where I started hemorrhaging, and I know exactly what they're talking about, picking up heavy things and how it affects different parts of your body. So I know that where she was going with this damn thing, but 5 pounds is ridiculous, but I really don't want to press my issue until I've given that bowel incision time to heal properly, because I don't want to blow that fucking thing open and have things. One of the other things that I had that I didn't discuss is after they did this operation, they put a drain in me, drained out some fluids from my stomach cavity. In case anything was leaking from that, they could double check on it. So I had what was called a drain, and I didn't really know what this drain was until another girl removed that drain. I had this little, like, syringe type ball that was connected to a tube that went into my stomach cavity. And that ball was kind of kept under a vacuum, so it would suck any fluids that were in that cavity back into the ball, and they could keep track of those fluids. So there was, when I first came out of surgery, there was a lot of blood in it. And as the day progressed, or days progressed, the fluid became clearer and clearer and less and less. But anyways, that was another experience when they removed that tube. She came in and I says, how is that tube held in there? And she says, there's a stitch that we put in there and tied around the tube that kind of actually holds it into you. She says, I'm going to cut that stitch out and then I'm going to pull the tube out. And she says, I'm going to tell you right now, people react to things differently. I've had people cry, I've had people scream, I've had people that had absolutely no reaction to it whatsoever. But she says, let me tell you something, it's probably going to be one of the weirdest sensations that you've ever felt in your life. And it was. It wasn't painful. It was just this weirdest sensation. And there's nothing else that I've ever experienced in my life that will give you what that sensation feels like. If any of you have ever had it done, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't even begin to explain what it was. It was something between pain and orgasm, and it was just this weird friggin' sensation. But anyways, so I got through all of that. I'm back at the shop, but let me tell you, there's probably not going to be a lot of videos coming out. As a matter of fact, I told you this thing has gone a long time. I told you that I was going to show you some welding and some other stuff and a tool repair. I might only just throw that tool repair into this video just so that you kind of know what I've got going on, and I've got some stuff in the can just so that I can release another video into next week. So, because I'm really not supposed to be working. So I just wanted to let you guys know what's going on, and if you experience a lack of videos, you know why. Thanks for watching, guys, really. So I'm going to throw that tool repair in. What this thing is a spanner wrench made by Armstrong. But what you can see is the pin that goes into this slot, not slot, but hole that the spanner wrench works on. The pin is broken off. And what it looks like is it was a piece of hardened steel because of the way it broke off. It's got that grainy or granular effect on it, so I'm going to assume it was a piece of hardened steel. I told the guy what I was going to do. I saw it laying on his bench, and I told him that I could probably fix it. He was going to buy a new one. He might have already bought a new one, but I told him that I would try and fix it for him, or just to see if I could do it. So what I'm going to do is that thing appears to be a quarter-inch rod in there. What I've got is a undersized drill bit. I forgot what it was now. Might have been 11/64 or something, but what I'm going to do is drill that thing out undersized and then find a piece of quarter-inch rod to press back in there. Hopefully I can drill it out undersized enough where if I heat this up and cool the rod, I can just get it pressed back in there, and it'll be at like a press fit. But I'll bring you back. And here is a spanner wrench completed. Let me turn it this way so it gets you out of that glare of the door. What I did is I bored out what that old hard thing was, and it was hard, and it was hard to drill. I actually took an end mill and I started drilling it, went as far as I could with the drill, and then took an end mill and went down in there. What I have done is taking a piece of rod that I had laying around, turned it down on the lathe a little bit, stuck it in there. Now, when I bored it, it actually came through on the back side. Now, I don't think I went any deeper in the original, so maybe this is what they had done to begin with. So what I did is opened that backside hole up a little bit and stuck the pin in there and TIG welded it in there. So there it is. I'm not really sure how long the pin was supposed to be. I made it a little bit longer than I kind of think it should be, just in case. It better be having it be long than too short. If it is too long, he can always take and cut it off a little bit. Cut it off and just file it down. But anyways, there it is. It's complete.